Academic motivation is something all teachers are interested in, so my colleagues Anna Burnley, Ann-Louise Spangler, and I spent some time researching academic motivation to find out its importance in the classroom and to see what we can do to increase our students' motivation. The first researcher we looked at was Albert Bandura. His theory of motivation recognized the importance of self-efficacy in a student's motivation. Self-efficacy is a student's perceived ability to succeed at a task. Bandura found that students are more motivated to complete tasks when they feel confident they will succeed. Students who respond to new challenges with anticipation rather than fear will continue to set for themselves increasingly complex goals. Self-efficacy is also related to task ambiguity. The more ambiguous task instructions are, the less confident students feel in their ability to succeed. This decreases their motivation and makes it more likely they will give up if the task is challenging. Teachers can resolve this issue by providing clear instructions and modeling what successful work looks like. The next researcher we looked at was Paul Tough. His book, How Children Succeed, was published in 2013. He recognized that self-efficacy encourages students to work hard at a task. He also believes that if we cultivate the personality traits of motivation, conscientiousness, and self-control, then we are leading our students to future success. He says these traits, motivation, conscientiousness, and self-control, are all traits that can be practiced if we provide our students with opportunities to practice them in the classroom. Our research has led us to believe that we need a new definition of success. Originally, we were defining success as a certain level of cognitive skills. For example, students who showed a high ability to recognize letters and words, or to calculate or recognize patterns, or sometimes even just a high IQ, we tended to think of as potentially successful in the future. But what our research has shown us is that actually success depends more on the cultivation of non-cognitive skills, such as persistence, self-control, curiosity, conscientiousness, grit, and self-confidence. To continue with the idea of perseverance, or grit, Angela Duckworth published a book called Grit in 2016. In this book, she discovers that high achievers have a high level of passion for achieving their goal and a ferocious determination, even when tasks are boring, frustrating, painful, or challenging. She mentioned the example of Will Smith. Will Smith that we would recognize as a very successful person, but he's pretty modest, and he'll admit that if you put him against someone else, he'll lose 9 out of 10 times. But he's very determined to stay in good shape. He actually has said if you put him against someone else on a treadmill, either that other person will stop running first, or he, Will Smith, will die on the treadmill. Another example of the importance of perseverance is conducted in James Heckman's research comparing high school graduates and GED recipients. In this experiment, James Heckman acknowledged that the purpose of the GED program was to set a level playing field between high school graduates and high school dropouts, so that high school dropouts could take the test, earn the scores, earn the diploma, and then be on the same level as the high school graduates. But what Heckman actually discovered is that only 3% of GED recipients attended a 4-year university, compared to 46% of high school graduates. He also looked at other factors that we consider to be signs of success, such as annual income, unemployment rate, divorce rate, and the use of illegal drugs. And in this, he discovered that GED recipients look exactly like high school dropouts, not high school graduates. What the conclusion we can come to with this is that their cognitive skills didn't seem to have any positive effect on their lives. So what did high school graduates have that GED recipients didn't have? Well, they had an inclination to persist at a boring and often unrewarding task. They had the ability to delay gratification and the tendency to follow through on a plan. Motivation is obviously important, so how do we increase it in the classroom? Well, one thing teachers can do is recognize where the student is coming from. Is the student approaching a task with a high sense of self-efficacy or a low sense of self-efficacy? Is the student motivated to achieve or motivated just to avoid failure. One thing teachers can do to help this is make sure that their task instructions are clear and non-ambiguous. Also, teachers can recognize whether a student is coming at the task from a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. The students from a fixed mindset believe that character and intellect are innate traits that don't really grow or change throughout a person's life. And for this reason, failures and struggle actually indicate a lack of innate intelligence or ability to a student in a fixed mindset. On the other hand, students in a growth mindset believe that character and intellect can grow and change throughout their lifetimes. These students perceive failure as an opportunity to try again and to learn from their mistakes. It is not the end stop that it is for students in the fixed mindset. Another thing teachers can do to help students increase motivation in the classroom is to avoid the carrot and stick trap. This is pertaining to extrinsic motivators such as grades, bribes, and rewards. These extrinsic motivators work temporarily, but our research has shown that in the long run, they actually decrease motivation and suppress a student's creativity. Extrinsic motivators manipulate behavior rather than motivate learning, and they completely change a student's reason for completing a task. Daniel Pink has been quoted as saying, "Rewards can perform a weird sort of behavioral alchemy. They can transform an interesting task into a drudge." Here are some further suggestions for increasing student motivation. First, teachers can introduce students to the mindsets. Teach them about the fixed and the growth mindset and help them understand that mindsets can change. Teachers can positively impact students' mindsets by telling stories about successful people who have worked hard. Also, praising students for their effort rather than their intelligence encourages a growth mindset in students. Teachers can also encourage students to believe that intelligence and character are malleable, particularly the traits of perseverance and persistence can be honed. Teachers can also help students realize that failure feels bad for everyone, not just students in the fixed mindset. But what we can do is encourage students to be brave enough to pursue information about how to do better next time. Teachers can help students make a solid, explicit plan or protocol to follow when they are faced with setbacks. And last and most importantly, teachers should discourage labels in the classroom. Grades are the number one way that we label students. Students who make A's are labeled as successes, and students who make F's are often labeled as failures. But rather than relying on the greater wisdom of teachers to indicate to a student whether he or she is a success or a failure, teachers can increase motivation by collaborating with their students to set appropriately challenging goals, but also to set individual definitions of success. Teachers should help their students realize that there is more to success than grades, and remind them that academic success comes from experience, not natural talent. In fact, labeling students as naturals reinforces the fixed mindset and stunts their ability to handle setbacks and recover from failures. If you're interested in learning more about this, I have 4 books here that I have recommended. Angela Duckworth wrote the book Grit, The Power of Passion and Perseverance. Paul Tough wrote the book How Children Succeed, Grit, Curiosity, and the Hidden Power of Character. Daniel Pink wrote the book Drive, The Surprising Truth About What Motivates Us. And Carol Dweck wrote the book Mindsets, The New Psychology of Success. And these are all highly recommended readings. Are there any questions? Thank you for attending today.